Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my series of videos where I'm talking about my logo design process on my current project. In this video, I'm going to talk about day 5 where I am artworking my logo design. Now, over the past few videos, you have seen me go from day 1, 2, 3 and 4 where I started right at the beginning, found out everything about the project, looked at the brief, come up with brainstorming, came up with ideas, sketched out all my designs, and in my last video I brought my sketches onto the computer where I vectorized them, where I came up with this black and white logo which I was really happy with. Now today I'm going to be continuing on with phase 3 in my visual artwork and design, but today I'm looking at step 4 and looking to finalize color. Now, color to me is a big deal and I can spend a lot of time on color because, of course, color is a huge part of logo design. And this project in particular is a little bit more, there's more to it than just a simple color scheme, which you will soon see as I show you what I did today. So color is a big deal to me and I spent all day on this today. So let's take a look at what I did. So the first task in my step 4 to finalize color is to consider color. Now, this is a process I use where I take a step back and I really think about the theory of my color, and I think about everything that I have discovered up to this stage, and now I'm thinking about the nature and the quality of the design and the concept territory that I'm working on. And basically what I want to do is I want to think of color that is going to adequately embrace, represent and work to bring to life those qualities. So I'm not just picking any old colors, I'm thinking of key areas and meaning and purpose for my colors. So when I choose my colors, I basically have good reasons for my decisions. So here is the initial step that I normally take when it comes to thinking about color. Before I start picking colors and sampling colors, I really like to just think about it, think about the theory and reflect back on some of the earlier process to see if there was any clues or any ideas or any suggestions to color that might help me at this point. So what I do here is I reflect back on my route and then I start with thinking about any obvious ideas. Now, was there any colors from the brief? Sometimes a brief may be quite suggestive with colors. Maybe, there's an obvious color that might be part of the name or part of the product or something that might, be something that I need to consider. So first I'll think of any of colors from the brief and then I'll think about the name. Sometimes a color might be implied in a name. It's not often, but it can happen, and I'll reflect on that, and if there's any color in the name I'll think of that. And then I think of any initial ideas. Now these are just any initial ideas I had earlier on in the process. Now, as I mentioned earlier on the kickoff call, the client liked the idea of having a variety of colors, like a spectrum, because of course I'm designing for a training platform and there's lots of categories, and they kind of like the idea of maybe compartmentalizing them and creating structure with color. So that is one idea I had initially, so I made note of it there. And then I like to think of the context, the audience and the strategy, because of course audience is really important. And when we fully understand the audience, we will know exactly who we're targeting, and color plays a big role in appealing to certain types of people, certain personalities, and certain age groups and demographics and things like that. So the context is education, private training, and on this occasion I'm appealing to a young professional, 16 to 24-year-olds. And the strategy here is that maybe there would be a master color logo and a variety of colors for each sector. So yes, I might have a variety of colors for this logo, but there will need to be a master logo. There will need to be a logo that is seen at all times. Otherwise it's going to get too complicated. So I need to keep that in mind. So finally, I think about how color should feel. So taking into consideration the context and all my ideas, here I like to think about what the color should feel. And these are just words that I need to keep in mind when picking colors. So here I've got practical, vibrant, clear, transitional, dynamic, optimistic, exciting, inspiring, energetic, high contrast, harmonious, and fresh. So after a bit of thought, these are some buzzwords and some qualities that whatever colors I choose, I'll really need them to tick these boxes. So once I've thought thoroughly about my color and the direction I want to go in, I will then start with task 2 in my finalized color, which is to sample color. So what I do here is I use another quick technique where I open a color kit. So this is a document that I have prepared earlier, and this is a little tool that I use when thinking about color and trying to get inspiration for color for my logo designs. Now, one of the most difficult things when coming to color is that when you start with a blank slate, it's like, wow, which color do we go for? And it can be tricky to get inspired. Now, there's multiple ways you can do this, but this is one way that I find helps me. So this is a color kit that I have, and as you can see, there's loads of different colors going on here. I have some color wheels and some color spectrums, and this is something that's really cool that I use to start with, because I can have a look around and I can get inspired and get some ideas from some of the colors I see here. I even have some gradients, but on this occasion I wanted to think about just solid colors and start with that. So down here I picked out some colors. Now what I want for this particular project is I don't want to pick obvious colors. I want something that's a little bit more unusual. So I'm going to pick some classic colors, but just try and think of some alternative tones. So here I've gone for some blues, I've gone for like a yellow and a red orange, and I considered some purples, and down here we can see I've got some other colors, blue and green, and maybe even a grey and a dark black and a purple. So here I'm just going to start very simple, and I've got my base colors here. Now these are just samples. When I apply these to the logos, this will probably not be the final colors. This is just a trigger. So this is like a step that I like to take, because color is so difficult to finalize, and I normally don't finalize color until later on, which we'll see shortly. But this is like an initial step that just kicks it all off. So once I have a few color samples in the bag, it's then time to take these colors and apply them to the logo design. So now I'm going to take my black and white logo and apply these colors to the logo to see if they work. So here is the initial step that I do to apply colors. Once I have my color samples from my previous document, I like to pop them into a new document and just put them up into the top left nice and small, so I have them as reference. And then I'll bring in my logo and start to apply color. Now on this unique instance, I'm exploring a variety of colors. I'm going to see if a spectrum works. So here you can see where I've taken my initial color picks and I've applied them to the logo. And this is where I just see initially if the colors are working. And what I've done here is I like the idea of the logo having two colors. So there's a prominent color, which I'm using black for the stroke. And then there's a secondary color, which could be quite flexible, which could work really nice as a flexible character. So the blocks in the logo could contain the color. And you can see here that I've explored how a variety of logos could work, and each permutation has a different color. Now, at this stage, I liked the colors, but I didn't think they were working. To me, it didn't feel right. I felt like some of these shades were a bit too dark, and I felt like this color palette wasn't balanced. So what I like to do, once I have applied my colors initially, I then like to take another step to try and perfect the colors. So here you can see I have a new document. So what I did here is I just refined the colors, and you can see that underneath each logo I had the original color, and then I copied the sample next to it and just refined that color just a little bit into a tone that I think was working. And here you can see some of my workings here where I feel this is a bit of an improvement on my previous palette. So once I had these colors working, I then wanted to see how the colors would work on the different variation of the logo, on the strokes logo. So here you can see how I've applied it here, and I feel like this is looking really fresh and bold, quite impactful. I'm getting quite excited now about this color palette and the way it's working in the logo design. But another thing that occurred to me was, instead of using black as the main color, I wanted to explore the purple, because I actually quite like this as an alternative. Now, the color purple is associated with wisdom and knowledge. So I thought maybe instead of having the black, which is kind of a default, obvious choice, I always like to find darker shades. Sometimes I go for like a navy or a purple. So in this instance, I've gone for like a purple color. I like how this was working, and I feel like it complemented the colors quite well. So here I applied them to my logo set. So from the first step, for my initial colors, I just tested them a little bit more. I pushed them on a little bit further just to get something I felt was a little bit more refined, a little bit more bespoke, and a little bit more tailored to the design. And at this point, I feel like it's working really well. So once I've established a set of colors which I think are working, I will then like to unpack that a little further and test and trial the colors against my logo design to see a bit more dynamic, and to test the dynamics and see, you know, what the logo could work with background colors. So here I have a new document where I've brought my initial color selections over, and here you can see I'm just stress testing it and seeing, you know, how could the logo work on backgrounds. Initially I put the colors on white, but how do they look like on background colors? So here I tested and explored how the colors would work on a black background, but also I like to take those colors which I've identified and see how they work as colored backgrounds. This may or may not be something I execute or necessarily present to the client, but at this early stage I always like to see how the colors could work in various combinations. So here I have a spread of how the logo works dynamically with the colors, and then once I feel like some of the colors are working, I'll then look at the final lockup. So here I'm looking at the RTS logo with the complete Riverside training Spalding, and look at how the colors would work there. Here I'm looking at a couple of combinations, and then I'm starting to think that this is starting to come together real nice, and I'm thinking I'm kind of close to what I wanted. But as I was saying earlier on with that purple, as well as looking at the black background, I will then look at the purple background. So here I've just got the same document, but instead of that black, I'm looking at how the purple works. So as we saw in the previous example where I used the purple on the strokes, I'm seeing how it works as a background, and then again looking at the variety of colored backgrounds and to see how that will work. And this gives me an alternative approach to my colors. And again, looking at the full lockup with the word mark Riverside Spalding and a couple of combinations to see how that works. And I'm kind of liking this. I think that this is a nice approach, and this could be something that I could explore. It'll be really nice to see this in situ and see how it works. Now, one last approach that I took, you know, one of the qualities that I looked at in my considerations was transitions. Now, training is about movement, it's about moving forward and developing yourself. So there's a sense of movement in this. So I wanted to see how gradients would work. So taking the logo that I did before, here I've used the same colors, but I'm looking at gradients. So here you can see I looked at some of the darker shades to the lighter shades to see how gradients would work, and these look quite interesting too. So then what I did is took the logo and then applied some of the background gradients, and also applied it to the stroke effect as well. So now what I have here is I have three approaches. I've got my flat effect on black, I've got my flat effect on purple, and I'm thinking of my gradients. So as you can see here, at this initial stage, I am thinking of a color palette or a spectrum of color. Now, this isn't always the case for logo design. Sometimes you may only come up with a real simple color scheme where there might just be one color for the logo. But in this particular design, this is for a private training company. And one of the things that we discussed initially on the phone, on the call, is that they like the idea of maybe having various colored versions of their logo because they have different sectors in their training, from accountancy to childcare to business and teaching and things like that. So here I'm exploring a potential color spectrum where there could be a color for each sector. Now, it's still early days, and I'm not going to settle on any of these yet. Right now, I feel this is in a really good place, and I feel as if for this particular project, I'm going to have to test the colors in situ. So now I have my colors as you see them there. I'm going to leave it there because I think I'm in a really good place. That is kind of where I was at today. That's what I did today. I thought about my color and I rolled out my color, and I'm really happy with the initial color choices I have here. I don't think I'm going to move too far away from that. So that really wraps up what I did today. Now, what I'm going to do tomorrow is move into phase 4, which is present logo designs. Now I've got my logo, I've got my colors, and I'm really happy with it. I'm now going to look to present this to the client, to present my creative solution, to show and talk to them and basically demonstrate and convince them why I think this would really work well for them and their creative solution. Now, the first step in phase 4 is to place logo design into in situ visuals. So tomorrow I'm going to be taking everything I've done up to this point and I'm going to start putting them into in situ visuals, because this is really important, because this is where the client can really see the logo come to life, and when they see that and they can see it working, it just helps sell the design. And also it's an opportunity for me to put my logo design into practical, real situations just to see if it actually works. And this is really also a really good exercise to really test those colors as well, because as I test those colors and put my colors and my design into in situ visuals, I'm going to see whether they work or not. And typically on projects, in my experience, putting design into in situ visuals can really help refine and determine what colors I go for. So tomorrow I'm going to be looking at putting my design into in situ visuals. So if you want to stick around for that, you can join me in my video tomorrow. So that's what I did today, and tomorrow I'm going to be taking it forward into day 6. Now, if you liked what I talked about in this video and you want to learn more about it, I have a massive full professional logo design course that goes into all this in far more detail and a bit more clear and a bit more articulate and structured. If you want to check out that course, it's free. It's on my other YouTube channel, GDS. You can find it out in the description. So I hope this video has helped you a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments and I'll get back to you with an answer. And subscribe and like the video for more like this, so you can join me tomorrow and on other future projects like this. So until then, I'll see you tomorrow.